They laughed at him. A room full of lawyers, judges, and strangers, all laughing at a 9-year-old boy standing alone in court, clutching a torn folder and shaking in his oversized shirt. But no one in that courtroom could have imagined what he was about to do next, because within minutes, that same little boy would silence every single person in the room and change his mother's life forever. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button and subscribe because you're about to witness a story that'll leave you speechless. It was a gray Monday morning in Atlanta. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked pavement, and the courthouse steps were slick with drizzle. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with a low hum of conversation. Lawyers adjusting their ties, clerks shuffling papers, and a bailiff yawning behind his mask of professionalism. In the front row sat Monica Turner, a 32-year-old single mother, her hair pulled back in a trembling bun. Her eyes looked hollow from sleepless nights. Monica had worked at the Grand Regency Hotel for 8 years. She cleaned suites, polished floors, and occasionally filled in for the night clerk. Everyone called her dependable, until one day, the hotel claimed thousands of dollars went missing from the office account. And somehow, Monica's login was used. Within 48 hours, she was arrested. She couldn't afford a lawyer. Her savings barely covered rent and food for her son, Eli, a quiet but bright 9-year-old with curious eyes and a mind far older than his years. Eli had always been different. While most kids watched cartoons, he watched courtroom dramas. He didn't understand every word, but he liked how truth always seemed to win in the end, how the underdogs stood up and found their voice. That morning, he sat in the cold backbench of the courtroom, swinging his legs nervously, a folder clutched tight against his chest. Inside were papers his mother thought she'd lost, shift schedules, digital logs, and a few notes Eli had scribbled down late last night when she'd cried herself to sleep. When the bailiff called, case number 7419, State versus Monica Turner, his small hands clenched tighter. Monica rose slowly, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor, Daniel Huxley, was a man known for winning every case he touched. He smirked at Monica, then turned toward the judge with confidence. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. The evidence is clear. Miss Turner's credentials accessed the hotel account after midnight. Funds were transferred to an offshore account. There's no need to waste the court's time. Monica tried to speak. Your Honor, I didn't. Huxley interrupted smoothly. If I may, Your Honor, the defendant's story has changed 3 times already. That wasn't true. But no one seemed to care. The gallery whispered. The clerk scribbled. The judge adjusted his glasses, already weary from the morning docket. Eli's heart raced. His mother's voice cracked. And when the judge asked, "Do you have legal counsel?" she shook her head and said quietly, "No, Your Honor." Something inside Eli broke. He stood up. His small frame barely reached the height of the benches, but his voice carried across the room like a spark. Your Honor, may I speak? Everyone turned. The prosecutor laughed. The bailiff frowned. Someone in the gallery whispered, "What is this kid doing?" Monica spun around, panic flashing in her eyes. Eli, no, sit down. But Eli didn't. Please, sir, he said, his voice trembling but firm, I have something important to show you. The judge sighed. Young man, this is a courtroom, not a classroom. Sit down before Eli interrupted softly. It's about the evidence, sir. It's wrong. The room went still. Even the prosecutor's smirk faltered. The judge stared at the boy, measuring his courage. You think you understand the evidence, son? Eli nodded. I understand enough to know my mom didn't do this. The judge leaned back. You've got 5 minutes, young man. Make them count. Eli walked forward slowly. His shoes squeaked against the polished floor, and the microphone stood too tall for him, so he dragged over a wooden crate and climbed up. His small hands laid out the papers carefully, receipts, schedules, and a hand-drawn timeline in blue crayon. These are my mom's work hours, he began. She worked the evening shift that day from 4 to 10. She clocked out at 10:04 p.m. Here's the timestamp from her time card. He pointed to a paper. The money was taken at 12:31 a.m. But my mom was home by then. I know because she tucked me in at 10:30 and we watched cartoons until 11. I even wrote it in my homework journal. Laughter echoed again, faint but cruel. Eli ignored it. Her work login was used after she left. Someone else used her ID. The prosecutor crossed his arms. Objection, Your Honor. This is ridiculous. The judge raised a hand. Let the boy speak. Eli took a deep breath. The hotel manager, Mr. Jenkins, he said, turning toward the front row, was the only other person with access to her login information. I heard him once tell her he'd take care of it if something went wrong. I didn't understand what that meant then, but now I do. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Jenkins' face drained of color. Eli flipped another page. And this is the bank account number where the stolen money went. I copied it from the hotel statement that was sent to us, but when I looked it up last night, the name attached wasn't my mom's. It was his. The judge frowned. How did you find that? Eli smiled nervously. I asked my computer teacher to help me look it up. He said it was public information. The prosecutor stood, red-faced. This is absurd, he's a child. But Eli wasn't done. He opened his crayon-marked notebook. And there's one more thing. The hotel camera outside room 207 stopped working that same night. I checked the public maintenance logs. It was disabled exactly 5 minutes before the money was moved. If someone didn't want to be seen, that's how they do it. The judge's gaze hardened. He turned to the clerk. Verify this information immediately. The clerk left the room and returned several minutes later, holding her tablet with shaking hands. Your Honor, the boy is correct. The system logs confirm every word. The judge slowly turned toward the hotel manager. Mr. Jenkins, would you like to explain how your name is attached to that account? Jenkins stammered. I don't know, there must be a mistake. Eli looked him in the eye. You told my mom she'd regret saying no to you. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then the judge slammed his gavel. That's enough. Bailiff, detain Mr. Jenkins for questioning. Reporters began scribbling furiously. The prosecutor stared in disbelief. Monica covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't even move when Eli turned toward her, smiling softly. Told you I'd protect you, Mom. The judge's voice softened. Case dismissed. Miss Turner, you are free to go. And as for you, young man, he paused, his tone warming. I've been a judge for 30 years, and I've never seen courage like that. Keep studying, son. You have a future in this room, on the other side of the bench. The courtroom erupted into applause. For the first time in months, Monica laughed, a real, tearful laugh, and hugged her son so tightly it felt like the world disappeared around them. Over the next few days, the story spread across the nation. News channels called him the kid lawyer. Talk shows wanted interviews. Scholarships poured in. The judge himself visited their small apartment a week later with a gift, an old, leather-bound law book. Inside the cover was a note written in careful script. For Eli Turner, proof that justice isn't about age. It's about courage. Years passed. Eli grew older, wiser, and stronger. He never forgot they or the way people laughed before they listened. He studied harder than anyone, finishing high school early, then college, then law school, all on scholarships that came from that one courtroom moment. When he finally walked into the same courthouse years later, he wasn't a scared little boy anymore. He wore a dark suit, carried a briefcase, and bore his mother's proud smile. And the first case he took? Defending another single mother accused of a crime she didn't commit. That day, as he stood before the judge, the same one who had given him a chance years ago, he felt a quiet sense of déjà vu. The judge smiled at him and whispered, I told you we'd meet again, counselor. Eli smiled back. And this time, Your Honor, I'm here to win. Sometimes, greatness doesn't wear a suit or carry a degree. Sometimes, it walks in with untied shoes and a trembling voice and still speaks truth to power. If this story moved you, subscribe and be part of the Black Visionaries family. Because stories like these remind us that courage has no age.